These days, it can be hard to trust the media. What's true, what's fake, and who is behind the message? I'm a freelance journalist and videographer who has spent years studying the media. Now I'm taking a look at what local, regional, and national news stories mean to us here in North Central Washington. I'm Dominick Bonny, and this is Common Sense. This week, many of our fellow Americans head to the polls to make important decisions about the future of this country. Here in Washington, where it's easy to vote safely and securely before Election Day and skip waiting in line at polling places, many of us have already cast our ballots. In fact, of the time that we're recording this episode, about half the voters in our state have already cast their ballots, and a record number of more than 66 million Americans have voted ahead of Election Day nationwide. But instead of talking about politics and the things that divide us in this episode, I want to talk about the ties that bind us. I think in the coming weeks and months, we're all going to need reminders of the things that unite us and why we're better together. Today, I want to take a look at how individuals and events play such an important role in giving us a sense of community and solidarity. Individuals like Kay and Gil Sparks, who spent the better part of 30 years leaving a lasting impact on this region. I want to highlight them because they are living proof of how much of an impact one or two individuals can have in shaping the culture of an entire community. I met Gil years ago while out shooting photos for the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, and at the time I didn't realize how much of an impact he and his wife Kay have on our region. It wasn't until this last year that I realized that these two are rock stars of community service. Earlier this year, after COVID hit and led to the shutdown in early 2020, I had the opportunity to visit Kay at their home in East Wenatchee and interview her about a project she and other members of the NCW Quilt Guild had gotten involved in. Because of shortages in personal protective equipment nationwide, she and other volunteers started using their skills to make life-saving PPE right here for medical professionals in our region, as well as anyone else who needed masks in general. With Kay coordinating, the folks in the Quilt Guild produced thousands of masks that were then all donated and distributed across Central Washington. While some Americans were finding ways to profit from the shortage of PPE, people like Kay were hard at work churning out masks to give away for free. But that's just one example of Kay and Gil's positive and proactive legacy here in our region. After the break, I'm going to interview them about their philosophy of service, and then we're going to take a look at Wenatchee Valley Make a Difference Day and learn more about the two women who have been its stewards for 3 decades. On the 30th anniversary of this important local tradition, as they prepare to pass the baton to the next generation, it's important to honor and celebrate them. So stay tuned after the break. I'm Dominick Bonny, and this is Common Sense.
Merry Maids of Wenatchee has been professionally cleaning and sanitizing homes and businesses in North Central Washington since 1998. Merry Maids uses commercial-grade cleaners and viricides. Merry Maids has implemented additional safety and sanitation protocols. They are strictly following CDC guidelines for the safety of their clients and employees. For expert help with cleaning and sanitizing your home or business, call or look up Merry Maids of Wenatchee to schedule your free estimate today.
The 2021 models are arriving at Sangster Motors. General Motors is on the move with the all-new 2021 Yukon. Yukon is redesigned from the ground up with a bold new look and all the latest technology. Also new is the Canyon AT4 pickup. This off-road equipped mid-size truck will challenge any rival for performance and value. Both of these models will offer Duramax diesel options for maximum power and economy. The American Challenge is game on at Sangster Motors now.
Hi, I'm Jim Heinlein, independent agent and owner at Springwater Insurance Group here in North Central Washington. And it's that time of year again. October 15th to December 7th, that is the time if you have a Medicare plan, do I want to keep it or do I want to change it? For any of those questions, give us a call at Springwater Insurance Group because we're independent agents. We don't work with one company, we work with many companies because all of you have different situations and needs. So if you have questions about 2021 Medicare plans, give us a call, 888-2600.
I grew up in Arizona. Kay grew up in Michigan. We met in the service, and we both ended up spending about overlapping 7 months together in Vietnam, and then came back. And I finished college. We got married in Arizona. And as Kay said, we spent time in Arizona, in human resources, then moved to Butte, Montana in human resources, and then to law school.
And so, Kay, you worked in public health and social services and stuff like that as a nurse practitioner. Can you tell me about that?
I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner. So when we moved here, I worked at the clinic for a while in pediatrics, and then had the opportunity to work in public health as a maternal child health supervisor, working with nurses who work with kids and families, and then got a variety of roles there. Tobacco coordinator when the first tobacco settlement came down. I was part of the team that did the first community assessment in the 90s to start looking at marrying statistics and what they tell us about a community and basing policy on statistics, on hard data. So I did that kind of thing. And then I was on the mental health advisory, the RSN at that time. And in early 2005, there was one of the many fiscal crisis in mental health. And so I was part of the group that started a community-wide group looking at the many stakeholders in mental health services and to see what we could do as a community.
So, Gil, did you spend your entire career at Ogden Murphy Wallace?
Yes, I have. I interviewed with them, and Bob Keyes was the managing partner at the time, and was successful in the interview. It came over here 32 plus years ago, and I grew up at a time where there was a lot of loyalty to your existing employer as long as you were treated fairly. I was treated fairly and exceptionally well, and encouraged to get involved in the community, and it's been a great fit. It's all I can say.
What drove the two of you to get so involved in the community and really become, so interwoven into the fabric of the community?
I was going to say, for me, when we moved here, our kids were in school. So that immediately gives you a segue into the community in a lot of different ways. I mean, it means a lot of soccer games and pizza and all that kind of thing, but you get to know people. And in the school district, I was on the parent advisory. So got involved with trying to improve they were going through what we called outcome-based education then, again, looking at what do we know about our community, then how does that impact education? As a nurse, especially in public health, because public health serves the entire community, not just the ones who have healthcare coverage or whatever. And so that really makes you aware of the different needs in a community, or maybe the gaps. Mm-hmm. In public health, that's your job, is to address those gaps, make sure everybody gets what they need in terms of healthcare, nutrition, etc. So that sort of easily gets you into it. And the mental health was just being offered a position on the advisory, and then in the middle of a crisis, you try to get as many people together as you can, both the consumers, the providers, and the funders, the people who are paying the bills, to go, can we do this better? So it just it grows on you if you're open to it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think there was any grand plan, Dominic. I mean, we were fairly, midlife. We were going to raise the kids, and we just naturally got involved in things. And as we got involved, other people seemed to think that we had something of value to offer in different settings. And we both are of a mindset, we get asked to do something, we say yes. And we try to find a way to make it work. Mm-hmm. And watched a lot of really good mentors in town. Gene Sherritt, I got to know him when he first came to town, and watched how anytime anybody asked him to do something, he was right there. And that was a model I tried to follow a bit. And people kept thinking that there was something that we could add to the equation. And it felt good to do so, and it grew from there.
So what advice, I guess, would you have for maybe people who want to get involved, but maybe don't know where to start?
Well, I think first of all is to look at within yourself of what you're interested in, or what you find, you know, you'd like to improve in the community, perhaps. You know, if you're an outdoors person, well, then that's a great group to get to. If, you know, if like in mental health or any kind of healthcare thing, there's just kids issues. There's something for everybody in our community. So I would have to say, look at yourself first, because it's not a good idea to volunteer just to volunteer. You really need to enjoy something. It doesn't have to be your deepest passion, but it's something you really enjoy getting, you know, involved in. So that to me is the first thing. There are so many different groups here.
It came pretty naturally. I got involved in a service club, Rotary, after about being in town 10, 12 years. And that was an eye-opener of how you can have opportunities to help others who are much less fortunate. And you don't have to do everything, but do things that you enjoy doing and you get pleasure out of. And it helps others who are not quite as well situated.
What did you get back personally from your years of service?
Well, for me, I think the connections, the really good friendships. That one thing in terms of getting involved in your community is you do not have to do it all. You don't have to start a new organization. Just look around. And for me, working with people or volunteering with people, I learned a lot. Quite selfishly, I learned a lot, whether it's with my quilt guild, you know, making charity quilts, in mental health, when we sit down in a round table with folks from education. I mean, just to learn from them, maybe a little bit about their work and their challenges. And then the real thrill for me is, especially for the stakeholders, is we just sit around and do grassroots problem solving. And how different groups can help each other's out without getting a policy or a contract. You can just help people do that. You can share wisdom. So many people have shared the wisdom and the insight, and they make it so easy. Wenatchee is a really good community to get things done. And it seems to me, although, you know, you're aware there's leaders in different areas, there's just people who, when you say, hey, we need thus and such, they show up on Saturday morning to clean out the tires that somebody dumped in this creek, or, you know, these kinds of things. But to me, it's the connections and the deep friendships you get, that then when we have fires or floods or other things happening, all of a sudden you've got folks there helping you out, because they know you and they want to help you.
Yeah, it's an interesting question for me, because as I reflect back, it was getting involved, not to get something out of it, but to see how I can make a contribution, or we can make a contribution in some small way, whether it was the kids' sports, whether it was working with the chamber or any of the other entities we've worked with. And over time, it changed. As we got to know people, then we'd have people come to us who were first coming to town and say, you know, how do you get started? And sit down over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and talk about the opportunities and the connections in town. And it was a way of helping others make a contribution. And each of us in our own have to find what worked for us. And if you get satisfaction out of helping others in small ways, I think that is a great goal in life. And I would encourage that to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Gil and Kay moved to Colorado recently in order to be closer to family, which is why I interviewed them via Zoom. But I think I can speak for everyone in North Central Washington when I wish them all the best. They left some very big shoes to fill here and are truly great role models. One of the things I have learned over about a decade of interviewing and just talking to people who really get things done, professionally and personally, is that quite often they are humble and kind. And they always, like as a rule, avoid the spotlight, which is why I like to shine a spotlight on them. And speaking of role models, you might not know Margie Kerr and Laurel Helton by name, but if you live in the Wenatchee Valley, you have probably heard of Wenatchee Valley Make a Difference Day. For 30 years, it's been a community tradition. It's a tradition and an organization that is so special it has won multiple national awards and received national media attention. And the driving force behind Wenatchee Valley Make a Difference Day for 3 decades now is Margie and Laurel. I've had the pleasure of getting to know them over the last few years while helping them navigate the social media landscape and capture photos and video over the past few Make a Difference days. So I met up with them at Pybus Public Market the day before this year's Make a Difference Day on October 24th. Here's that interview.
I'm Laurel Helton.
I'm Margie Kerr.
And we've coordinated Make a Difference Day for the past 30-some Make a Difference Days in the Wenatchee Valley.
And how did it get started?
It got started by the USA Weekend magazine. They had published it was a leap year, and 1991, and they suggested that everybody use that day, extra day of the year, to do something good in their community to make a difference. And when I read it, I thought, this community always does something good. We can really succeed with this. So I wasn't sure how I could get it going in 1 month because I was leaving for California in a week. But the answer to prayer was my sister coming over the next day, and she had read it too and wanted to do it. So I said, well, I'll get it started if you'll carry on and we'll both finish. And that was the first start.
Isn't that a great story that if you get a good idea, just run with it. Don't say, oh, I don't have time to do that. Do as much as you can do when you feel like you should do something and just get it done. Because what if you just said, no time? It never would have happened.
Yeah, and that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. So how does it make you feel to know that something that you brought to the Valley is been going on and still going strong for 30 years?
Well, I don't feel like I brought it to the Valley. I give credit to USA Weekend for the idea, and we become friends with their editor and their reporters and stuff over the year, but it's worldwide. So Wenatchee was just the first to win their national award, and then we continued to do such a great job that they had to invent an encore award for communities who continue to make a difference. But I think this community is unreal. They've always been supportive, and just fits with who we are in this community.
Yeah.
Make a Difference Day is kind of the day that you know that you can rally the troops. You know, the Rotary clubs can all get together and work on a park together, or you can clean up the Y camp for the fall and that kind of thing. And so you can say to people, this is our work day. So it's just kind of been a good place where you say, how can you make a difference? Well, let's come together and do it this day, even though people are doing good all on their own, all over the Valley every day. But this day we join hands as a community to really have that unity in saying, we're neighbors, let's do something good.
And I think one of the great things, there's not a lot of projects or events where every single person can contribute or participate, all ages. And all ages do participate. Young kids do recitals at nursing homes, and older people do things, and you don't need to be in a service club or anything to make a difference. Families do it together. So
neighborhoods do it, you know.
So no one's left out. This is a day everybody can help.
One year I remember we had a 2-year-old painting over graffiti with a group that was cleaning up the graffiti, and then that same year we had a quilters group, and there were 90-year-olds that were making quilts. And I thought, what a span. You can never be too young to make a difference or too old. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to have any money to make a difference, or you can pour a lot of money into things that might require that. But this concept that Margie and Betsy, her sister, latched onto, that we all are part of this community and we can all do something, it's pretty powerful, I think. Yeah, it's done a lot of good.
So can you tell me about the awards that you've won?
Yeah,
9 of them.
the first year they just had one award in the country, and we knew we were in the running for one of 5, and they sent a photographer over from Seattle, and my sister and I had found all these cool places that we thought would be photo op. They knew we'd won. They didn't tell us, and they said, "How about if we gather a whole bunch of community at the museum?" Well, we had to start calling people and say, "Get over to the museum," and they filled up. And they also added a flag there. That should have been a giveaway to us, but we don't have a flag outside the museum, so they put the flag there. And he took photos, and later, when we saw our photo on the front, I wrote that photographer, he said, "I wanted to tell you so badly," but we couldn't. So,
But that was the first year,
Yeah.
so that was nationwide, one community chosen for the whole, thousands of communities that did projects, and Wenatchee won that. And then, ever after, it was bigger and bigger and bigger, and they said, "We want to award it to you, but we don't want you to get the award every year." So they decided to create something called the Encore Award. And so Wenatchee has won that over and over and over, honorable mention, whatever they've decided to do.
after the Encore Award, then we continued to win some awards, depending if we submitted something. Sometimes we didn't, we thought. And then sometimes local participants would win their own awards, like McKenna Schwab and Sarah Strain.
Yeah. They won the $10,000 national awards too, so I guess we should add, and Quincy got an honorable mention too. So yeah, I mean, it's just really it's generated money that's come back into the community, but it's also just, well, I'm remembering on our 20th anniversary, I think you were still in Hawaii, but it was the 20th year that we were doing Make a Difference Day, and they called me, Pam Bullock from New York, called me and said, "It's your 20th year. We know you're doing something big, so we really want you to submit it," because we stopped telling them what we were doing after a while, because every time we would do it, they would give us an award, and we thought, and it was a lot of work too after the fact too, but anyway, so we put together the scrapbook, and they gave us another award.
They always wanted to know, their first question was how many people participated. That was Laurel and our least, we didn't care. I mean, we tried to count up and everything, but it didn't matter to us. It was what got accomplished, and people had fun. We didn't care about the numbers, but they did, because they liked to see it go up. But after we won a couple Encore Awards, they would have other communities win them too, like maybe 5 or something. And different sponsors like Paul Newman, Points of Light, would all give money towards it. So their sponsorships grew, and they had a lot of money. But then one year they said, "We're not going to give out, only one community is going to get it." And that honestly is the first year I told Laurel, I said, "We're going to go for the money," because we always didn't worry about it, but we thought,
Yes, and it wasn't us. I mean, it's the valley. It's all the
just
people.
telling what
It's
people
telling what
do.
happened.
And we would send them videos and all that. Well, who could not like this community when they see what they do? So it was probably a slam dunk. But the editor came to the all-service luncheon to present it to the town. That was pretty exciting. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it is really cool. It's cool to think that the spirit of the people in this valley are worth that kind of recognition, and it's neat to bring money back and then pour it back into the community. So it's nice that somebody gave that money that let us do additional projects here. And so we have money in the foundation that will go on in perpetuity. So we fund projects each year that will do more good, and that's because people have done those great projects every year. Everybody's contributed to it.
So, what's next for Make a Difference Day?
For the future?
This is a big story, huh?
Okay, this is a big story. Laurel and I passed the baton this year to the Pybus Market Foundation, because their mission is to bring community together. And we wanted somebody to carry it on that saw the need to bring people together. We always used Pybus as headquarters once it was built. It was a nice gathering place to bring donations and to tell about your organization. So
Also, it has a farmer's market, and we dress up like a pea and carrot. And
Right,
so,
we get to
so that kind of goes into our Margie's love of costumes.
Sorry. But for the future, they've taken it over and they've already done a fabulous job. They have this beautiful sign this year, and tomorrow they're going to have drive-through. They're making the best of the pandemic year and figuring out how people can make a difference here at Pybus. And they've just done a great job, and we think that they're going to be a really valuable asset. Plus, I think it's good to have new blood. I'm not getting any younger.
Getting any what? But I see it. I mean, with the foundation doing it, it's going to go years and years and years. There's no reason for it really ever to stop. When you have something like this that's always going to be here, and Make a Difference Day will always be here. It is not about Margie or me, even though we are so grateful that you and Betsy started it, but it's about the community. So it's really wonderful that the foundation has taken that over, and they just have taken it under their wing, and I think they're going to be fabulous.
Businesses and individuals have trusted the experienced professionals at Financial Alternatives for their retirement and investment needs for 40 years. They offer a broad range of investments, annuities, and insurance solutions for people and businesses throughout Washington. Financial Alternatives will assist you in making informed decisions for your future. Call Financial Alternatives today and meet with their advisors.
Winter is a great time to trade in your current hot tub. Turn your old hot tub into money with Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa's trade-in program. You can save $500 to $1,000 off of any new artesian spa, or take advantage of a free Bluetooth music experience. Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa recommends draining your hot tub every 3 months. Ask us about our drain and refill special. Stop on by Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa today.
So Pam, how's your mom doing?
She's okay. She's struggling. She'd like to stay in her house, and it's getting harder for her to do the daily chores.
What kinds of problems is she having?
Just basic house cleaning, taking care of her house, yard work, taking care of her medicine.
Mm-hmm. It does sound exhausting.
It is very exhausting, and I always worry about her.
Aging and Adult Care can assist you or your loved one to remain comfortably and safely in their own home. Contact them today to start the conversation.
Hello and welcome back. I wanted to focus this week on stories about individuals who bring communities and people together. And I couldn't think of two better examples than Gil and Kay Sparks and Wenatchee Valley Make a Difference Day, aka Margie Kerr and Laurel Helton. I don't know about you, but this year has felt like the most divisive year in my relatively short life. And this week, that divisiveness will most likely crescendo. In fact, I, like many academics, sociologists, and journalists, worry about voter intimidation, a contested election, and the very real potential of militia-fueled violence on the streets of this great nation. When you look at things nationally, it can look pretty bleak. But when you look at things locally, not just here but in other parts of the country, both urban and rural, there are bright spots. People who are constantly doing good, building bridges, forming relationships, changing lives. Not because anyone told them to, but because they, like Gil and Kay and Margie and Laurel, are called to. Maybe it's in their nature, maybe it's because of their belief systems, maybe it's a mix, or maybe it's none of the above. What we can see is the good they've done and the examples they've set. And we can choose to follow in their footsteps, which in my mind is to choose to be a part of the solution. Or we can choose to dwell on what sets us apart, what divides us. Don't get me wrong, there are times and places for spirited political debate, but those debates end at the ballot box. After we've cast our ballots and made our decisions at the local, national, and state level, it's time to go back to working on relationships with family and friends, remembering that we are one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right now, I think we need good role models more than ever. People like Margie and Laurel and Kay and Gil, who have spent a good portion of their lives forming bonds, valuing others, and working to build relationships. It was American author H. Jackson Brown Jr. who said, "Remember that the happiest people are not those getting more, but those giving more." Join us next time for Common Sense.